The bouncer who became president, Poland's political nightmare. Imagine a country sitting right on the front line of the biggest European conflict since World War II. Now, imagine that country electing a former amateur boxer with a history in football hooliganism and a trail of dark scandals as its commander-in-chief. Welcome back. Today, we're talking about the current president of Poland, Karol Nawrocki. Elected in the summer of 2025, his presidency has quickly become one of the most polarizing and chaotic chapters in modern European history. To his conservative base, he's a patriot protecting traditional values. But to millions of other Poles, he is a national embarrassment whose past, diplomatic blunders, and outright sabotage of the government are dragging Poland backward. Let's break down how this happened and why the backlash is so fierce. How he won the presidency. To understand the anger, we have to look at the razor-thin election of June 2025. Nawrocki, backed by the populist Law and Justice Party, PiS, faced off against Warsaw's liberal, Oxford-educated, multilingual mayor, Rafał Trzaskowski. Against the odds, Nawrocki scraped out a victory with just 50.89% of the vote. How did a political novice do it? By leaning hard into the extremes. Nawrocki capitalized on populist fatigue, tapped into growing domestic resentment toward Ukrainian refugees, and strategically absorbed the voters of the extreme far right by signing a pledge refusing to back Ukraine's entry into NATO. He also leaned heavily on the global right, proudly accepting endorsements from the American MAGA movement. The scandals and the dark past. But it's Nawrocki's personal background that had half the country horrified. He campaigned as a Catholic family man and a historian, but the media quickly painted a much darker picture. First came the real estate scandal. Nawrocki claimed to own only one modest apartment, but journalists uncovered a second property, raising deeply disturbing ethical questions about how he acquired it from an elderly disabled man. Then came a massive bombshell from the major Polish news outlet Onet. Former colleagues alleged that during his youth, while working as a security guard at a luxury hotel, Nawrocki helped procure sex workers for wealthy guests. He furiously denied the claims, but combined with his known past in the violent world of Polish football hooliganism, his reputation among moderate voters was permanently shattered. If you want to keep tracking how these wild political shifts impact Europe and the rest of the world, make sure to hit that subscribe button right now. The backlash and the veto machine. This stark contrast, a rough, aggressive street fighter versus the highly educated, diplomatic Trzaskowski, led to widespread public mockery. Critics and opposition voters frequently attack Nawrocki's intellect, pointing to his crude rhetoric, lack of diplomatic tact, and complete absence of political experience prior to taking the highest office in the land. Since taking office in August 2025, the hatred toward him from the center and left has only intensified. Why? Because he has turned the presidency into a weapon. Dubbed the veto machine, he has actively blocked Prime Minister Donald Tusk's reforms on everything from women's rights to vital military modernization, deliberately paralyzing the country's legislative process for partisan gain. International blunders. His mistakes on the world stage have only poured gas on the fire. Just recently, in March 2026, Nawrocki traveled to Budapest to hold closed-door meetings with Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban. In a Poland that near universally despises Vladimir Putin, cozying up to Putin's closest ally in Europe was viewed by the ruling government as a catastrophic and embarrassing mistake. Prime Minister Donald Tusk publicly slammed the move as a dangerous strategy that weakens the EU. Ultimately, Poland is currently trapped. A progressive, pro-European government is locked in a cage match with a populist president who critics say is far more interested in brawling than governing. Do you think a deeply divided country can survive this kind of political gridlock? Or is Poland headed for early elections? Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and leave a like if this breakdown helped you understand the chaos. So what happens next? Because here's the part most people outside Poland don't understand. This is not just a personality clash. The Polish presidency is not ceremonial. The president can veto laws, influence foreign policy, and shape the entire tone of the state. And when the president decides his main job is to block the elected government, the country does not just slow down, it freezes. What gridlock looks like in real life. When people hear veto, they think it's some abstract political game. But in Poland right now, it hits everything. It hits the courts, because any serious attempt to repair the damage from years of political control gets stalled. It hits the economy, because investors watch instability and wait. It hits the military, because modernization needs legislation, procurement reforms, and long-term coordination. And Poland does not have the luxury of wasting time while Russia is still waging war next door. And it hits basic trust, because every month of paralysis tells the public one thing: your vote doesn't matter because nothing can move. The new political strategy: permanent conflict. Nawrocki's camp knows the math. Tusk's coalition struggles to override vetoes. So instead of negotiating, the president's side turns every veto into a campaign rally. Every blocked reform becomes proof that he is stopping the liberals. Every international dispute becomes proof that he is standing up to Brussels. Every scandal becomes proof that he is being attacked by elites. This is not governing. It's building a permanent war footing in domestic politics. And it's working, because outrage is addictive. The Ukraine flashpoint. The most dangerous battlefield is Ukraine. Poland has been one of Ukraine's most important allies, militarily, politically, morally. But the coalition Nawrocki leaned on during the election brought in a different message. Help Ukraine, but keep it at arm's length. No NATO path. More suspicion. More resentment. More talk about refugees as a threat, not a responsibility. That shift might sound small, but it's explosive. Because if Poland, the key frontline state, starts signaling hesitation, the entire European support system starts shaking, and Moscow notices everything. Why early elections are not a clean escape. So people ask, will Poland just go to early elections? Maybe. But early elections do not automatically solve this. If anything, they can make it worse. If Nawrocki's opponents lose momentum, peace gets a second wind. If the government collapses, the president becomes the center of gravity. And if the country goes into full election mode while the war in the region continues, Poland risks turning national security into just another campaign weapon. And that is the nightmare scenario. The two futures Poland is fighting over. Right now, Poland is basically choosing between two futures. One future is pro-European, institution-focused, and built on rebuilding trust with allies and repairing the rule of law. The other future is nationalist, grievance-driven, and built on constant confrontation with the EU, the opposition, and anyone labeled elite. And the brutal truth is this: both sides think they are saving the country. That's why the temperature keeps rising. So here's the question. How long can a frontline state afford to be locked in a political cage match? Does Poland grind through the gridlock until the next election cycle? Does the conflict escalate into mass protests and institutional crisis? Or does the country snap and force an early vote that becomes a referendum on whether the Nawrocki experiment was a mistake? Because in 2026, Poland isn't just choosing policies. It's choosing whether politics is still a system or just a street fight in a suit.